covering off the front office basic, so dealing with check-ins, postings, adjustments, reversals, checkouts, and whatnot. So when looking at a day, we're going to go into reports, reservations, print guest notes. Now these guest notes here will only show notes for people arriving today. It's not going to show people in-house. This is strictly any notes for the people arriving today. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. So what we can see, I have Shane McPhail, and we can see he has a guest note here, likes quiet room. We also see a res note, package on back counter. So I probably just want to go back, make sure that the package is there and ready for me to hand to the guest. I also want to make sure I assign Shane McPhail to a quiet room because that's a request he has. Now, if someone has no guest notes or res notes, they're still going to show up on this report. I'll just say no guest notes, no res note. Here's another one. I have Nancy Reed, room 102. Room 202, so I'm probably going to try to get these two rooms next to one another. And if I have connecting doors, maybe I'll try to do a connecting door in between them as well. Okay, so these are just any notes that we've flagged, whether it be a guest note, where they have a preference on the room type, or any res notes, anything we should be aware of as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about assigning rooms. If I go to my arrival screen, here's all my arrivals for today. As a reminder, John Smith being highlighted green, that means that he is a VIP guest. Now, a lot of hotels will pre-assign room numbers in the morning or pre-assign, maybe Night Audit will be doing it that morning. Some hotels do it a couple of days beforehand. So I'm going to do the slowest way to assign a room number first. We're going to go to John Smith. If I look down below, he has no guest notes. I have no res notes, but I do see he's a VIP. I'm going to click on Change Reservation. That will open up the booking for me. I'm going to wait for this to load on the screen here. There we go. I'm going to unbook. Click refresh, and because he has no special requests, I can choose whatever room I would like. Now here, the red lights here, this tells me that this room is currently dirty. Okay? The green light means that the room is clean and inspected, otherwise known as ready. And a yellow light means that the room would be clean but not inspected yet. So we'll talk about that when we get to housekeeping. So in preference, because he's arriving today, we don't know when he's going to arrive, and he's a VIP, my preference would be to find a clean room, a green room. Okay, because he's a VIP, I'm going to give him one of my nicer rooms that I know of. We're going to rebook, click OK. Now we can also see on the arrival screen, the room number is green as well. That again means that this room is vacant, clean, and inspected. Okay. And I'll show you the other colors on there as well. Yellow again for vacant, clean, but not inspected, and then bolded black when it is dirty. So the faster way to assign rooms, if I go into Operations, Room Assignment, the shortcut key for that is F11. That will bring me into the Room Assignment Calendar. Now the dates up above, it automatically defaults for 3 weeks here. So I click on Refresh Grid. That's going to show me all my room numbers, and then it's organized by room type. So here I have all my standard rooms. If I scroll down further, I get into my deluxe rooms and then my loft rooms. We also have a legend in the upper right-hand corner. So the blue means occupied. The red is a checkout for today. And then yellow down here is an assigned room. I can also right-click on the res ID here. So the 1442 is the res ID, and there I can see the name, res note, and guest note as well. I can right-click anywhere on that line, doesn't matter where. Okay, I'm then going to click on Show Reservations. Now, you can open this up to full screen, and you can even hover over this line, click and drag so you see more of the reservations, or maybe you want to see more of the grid, whatever makes sense to you. Now, I'm not going to do full screen mode right now just because for the training, I want to be sure that you guys can see my screen okay. Now, because the dates are the 11th till the 2nd, this is going to show all reservations between that time. But perhaps I only want to assign their rooms arriving to today. So what you can do is you can shrink down from April 11th to April 11th, refresh grid. Now I'm only seeing the arrivals for that day. The only downside with this method, if your hotel gets a lot of requests for specific rooms, you may end up with, let's say in room 107, I had another guest arriving here. So this is where we get what we call a hole in the blocking, where I need to find someone staying for 2 nights here, or maybe 2 one-night reservations to fill that hole in the blocking. During our slow time, when we have lots of rooms available, it's not as important. But definitely during our busy time, we don't want those holes in the blocking. So you know at your hotel, if you guys get a lot of pre-requests for rooms, if not, you're probably okay just to shrink down for today. Even if you did do more than today, notice if I click on the date in column down below, see how the little yellow diamond reorganizes by the date in. I can also reorganize by name. So if I want to see if there's any names that are the same, I can reorganize by room type as well. So I'm probably going to start with all my standard rooms first because they're at the top. Okay, so if I go to today, here we have Brian Sampson. If I look down below, Brian has no guest note, and he has a res note, but it has nothing to do about where I'm going to put him. Now, I have a couple of choices here. I could put Brian into room 102. Room 102 has a checkout in there. So that means that housekeeping has to wait for this guy to arrive, clean the room, and put the new guy in. Whereas here, I have all these other standard rooms that were not occupied last night. So during your slower times, it's in your best interest to choose a room that was not occupied last night. Right? Why put that pressure on housekeeping? And the room is all set. It's ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to take Brian Sampson. I'm going to click and drag him up. Now, if I get to the blue that's already assigned, see how we get a little symbol where I cannot drop them. Again, I could put them into one of these rooms that has a checkout, but most likely I want to choose a room that doesn't have a checkout going into it. So I let go of the mouse and I drop them into room 112. Okay, next I have Lily Bright here. Again, no guest note. We have something about the virtual credit card that we'll talk about today. So again, I'm going to click and drag her up to room 114. Now I just continue down the list. Shane McPhail, he does have a request, likes quiet room. So I know that my room 115 is near the elevator, room 118 is beside the housekeeping room, 119 is beside the ice machine, right? So I'm going to go up to one of our higher floors where it's quieter, and we'll click and drag Shane into room 303, very quiet room. Okay, now Janice Thomas is arriving today, but she's in a deluxe room. So let's say that I didn't notice that. If I try to click and drag Janice up, see how it doesn't even let me put it into a standard room. So room key will not allow you to assign someone in to a room that is not that room type. You would have to first go out, change the reservation, and then assign the guest to the room. Okay, so we'll come back to our deluxe rooms in a moment. Now the other option is I can go to the intersection of a date and a room number, double click, and that will show me everyone that I could assign in there. Now what we still want to pay attention to is, see how I'm on Nancy Reed, the little black arrow there, and then as I click down, again, we need to take note of any guest notes that may be there or res notes. So especially for Nancy and the 2 Nancy reservations, I want to try to book them first. So I'm going to put the first one in room 116. And I'm going to go down to 118, double click at the intersection of the date and the arrival, and put the two Nancy Reed reservations together. Okay, I'm going to go back to Alan McDonald. He has no special request, so I click and drag him up to 115. Now, if I click and drag Alan to 115, what if I remembered, oh, I need to take room 115 out of order for today or something? So if I just double click on the res ID, it'll say release room, yes. And I'll bring Alan back down to the bottom, and then I can click and drag him. Okay. I'm just going to complete the rest of them here. The last two are deluxe rooms. So I scroll down to where my deluxe room area is. Janice Thomas, no special requests. Put her in room 120. Now, this last one, for Doug Wetmore, I'm not going to assign the room. Because some hotels do assign the room numbers as the guest is checking in, so I do want to show you that method. So again, that was under Operations, Room Assignment. Shortcut key is F11. So now we have all our arrivals. Now, remember I was telling you that the rooms here are all highlighted green. That means that the rooms are clean. I'm going to go to Brian Sampson's room here. I'm going to go into housekeeping now. I'm not going to talk too much about what I'm doing in housekeeping right now because we are going to do a full session on this. I'm just going to take off the inspected here. We'll go back to the arrival screen and see now the room is yellow. Okay, if I go back to Operations Housekeeping, I'm going to take off the clean, and you're going to see that bold black. Now, if you have someone that is colorblind, not to worry, you're still going to get a warning message. So I am going to leave that room dirty so you guys can see how to handle that. Okay, now another thing we like to do in the morning, I'm going to go to Reports, Reservations, Reservations by Client Type. What I'm interested from this list are any of my OTA nets. So OTA stands for Online Travel Agent. And the OTA net sends through a virtual credit card to be charged for the room and tax. So for your hotel, it may be called third-party nets or third-party OTAs or something like that. They may have changed the wording on this. Or maybe your hotel doesn't deal with the OTA nets at all. Okay? But I'm going to go through the process here for the hotels that do. So I'm going to write down the two res IDs, 1482 and 1483. Okay, I'm going to go to res ID 1482. I'm going to go into change reservation first. When I go to change reservation, this is going to show me the room and tax total in the upper right-hand corner being $91.58. Now you'll also notice here I have the note saying post-payment for room and tax to folio 8 on the virtual credit card. If you remember back to the webinar we did on groups and corporates area, we set the Hotwire account up to have room and tax posting to folio 8. So folio 8 is a way of us hiding this away. Again, we're going to cover this when we do our check-ins today. So we recommend doing this at the beginning of your day, even before the guest arrives. So I go to post-payment. I'm going to choose folio 8. I'm going to put in $91.58. I'm going to go over to my credit card machine, type in the number, type in the amount. I'll get an authorization number that I put in here. For those of you who are getting the Shift4 or Sage Payments interface, When you click OK Exit, that's when you're going to get a second window pop up, and it'll either say Shift 4 interface or Sage Payment interface. You will have direct one-on-one training with your trainer on a couple of areas of how Shift 4 interacts with RoomKey, or how Sage Payment does. But otherwise, if you guys are manual, we put in the authorization code, click OK Exit. The second reservation was Aaron Hoskin. Again, I'm going to go to Change Reservation. We look at the total room and tax here, which is $91.58 again, the same amount. Now, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to go to Post Payment, and instead of choosing Folio 8, where I should put the payment, I'm going to accidentally leave it on Folio 1, because this will happen in real life for sure. I go over to my credit card machine, type it in, put in the amount, get an authorization number, click OK Exit. Okay, so now let's start talking about check-ins. So let's say that Shane McPhail walks up to the desk to check in. So I'm going to go to my arrival screen. Now see the little yellow diamond here? That means that we're organized by guest name. You can also reorganize by res ID. So if the guest says my res ID is 1441, then I can say, is that for Shane McPhail? Right? Or click on name, go directly to Shane McPhail. So here I'm going to confirm on a couple of pieces of information. I'll say, Mr. McPhail, I have you checking in today, checking out the 14th. I have one adult, no children in the room. Is that correct? At this point, I'm not going to quote the rate. Okay, we typically don't say rate out loud, and this is also the average rate. So we want to be careful of quoting that anyways. I would then ask for the guest's credit card and do the check-in. So I click check-in up top. Here we can see he is assigned to room 303. Now I could click on the drop-down and I can switch him to a different room at that time. I'm going to go to View Guest. When I go to View Guest, this will bring me into the guest profile area where I see Shane McPhail. I'm going to go to Extra Info. Under Extra Info, we can see the visa here. Now, if the credit card that Shane McPhail just handed me was the same one, I wouldn't do anything. If the credit card was different, we have two choices. We can go to Edit Guest, and we can change the credit card that is there, or we can go to Extra Cards and put in a new card. Okay? Most hotels will overwrite if it's a different one. In this case, I'm going to say it was the exact same credit card. So I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to exit out and then continue the check-in. I'm going to click check-in down below. Here the note pops up, package on back counter for guest. So I'm going to put gave the package to the guest and click post. So use these notes to your advantage. The guest does not see these notes, but it's a good way for your agents to put things in, any interactions or conversations, because here I can see the time date stamp of when we received the package and who received it. So each one of you will have your login here, and here we can see who gave the package and when. I'm going to close out of here. We're then going to get a copy of the registration card. Now the registration card is customizable. Your trainer will put your logo on here for you if you would like. And as well, on the property prep documents, we ask you to put anything that you want to have on the registration card. So we would have put that in here for you. If you want to make any changes to the registration card, just work directly with your trainer and let them know what you would like to add or change. We do have the option of moving fields around or changing fields if need be. And then down below, just this stuff. So some hotels will ask like vehicle, make and model, license plate. So this stuff here, this is not standard. This is just some examples I've given. So should you smoke in a non-smoking room, we'll charge you $1 million. Hotel not responsible for any loss or stolen items. So when this comes up on the screen, I'm going to click the little printer in the upper left-hand corner and have the guest sign this. You'll now notice that we're on the in-house screen and we're still on Shane McPhail. So as we check a guest in, it follows us through to the in-house screen. I'm going to go to the folio. On the folio, you'll also notice that we immediately charge room and tax as soon as we check a guest in. So the way our system works is we don't wait till you run an end of day. There actually is not running an end of day like other systems in Roomkey. Our system is automatic. It can be kept up 24 hours, and you do not have to run an end of day. So here, this is folio 1. I see the date, the transaction code, the room charge, amount, tax, total. Over on the right-hand side, I have the summary, seeing the room charge, tax, total. The balance right now is $122.10. The credit limit is $355.20. The credit limit is the room and tax for the 3 nights. So if I click this Stay button, Roomkey shows me what it is going to post the next 2 nights. So at 1 second after midnight on the 12th, the next day's room and tax post. 1 second after midnight on the 13th, the next day's room and tax post. So here, the credit limit, this is how much we want to authorize on the guest credit card. So I go over to the credit card machine. I swipe the credit card through, put in the amount, get an authorization. An authorization slip would print out. As a best practice, most hotels will take that registration slip or the authorization slip, staple it to the registration card, and put it in the bucket until the guest checks out. If your hotel charges upon check-in, you would actually go to Stay to see the total amount, $355.20. You're going to go up to Post Payment. Now, when you post payment, notice that Roomkey defaulted back to $122.10. And the way Roomkey works is every time you click Post Payment, it will always add up to whatever balance is on there right now. So right now, we only have the 1 night's room and tax of $122.10. So here, I would actually overwrite this amount, okay, and then I would put it through as a direct sale on my credit card machine and have an authorization and put in the code here. I'm not going to train on this basis. Most hotels will take authorizations on check-in and settle on checkout. So that is the method I'm going to show you today. We're going to go back to our arrivals. Okay, and let's go to John Smith. Now, John Smith, right away, we know he's a VIP because he's highlighted green. We can also see that John is on the AAA rate. So we're probably going to ask for his AAA card and his credit card when he arrives. So, Mr. Smith, I have you checking in today, checking out the 21st. I have 2 adults and no children. So let's say that John says, no, I'm checking out on April 20th. So what I'm going to do, before I check the guest in, I'm going to go up and click on Change Reservation. When I get to the reservation edit screen, I'm going to uncheck the book box, go down to 9 nights, click refresh. Okay, now the rates. Something important about the rate here is if you're extending a reservation, you want to be sure that you double check to see that the rate may or may not be changing the last couple of nights that they're adding. If you decrease the number of nights, you'd have to be careful. Let's say that you had a weekly rate, minimum length of stay of 7 nights. And then the guy comes in and wants to change down to 3 nights. Well, Roomkey is going to expect you to now change that rate from weekly to the daily rate, which we should. They shouldn't be getting the deal if they're not staying as long. In this case, the AAA rate is available every day, so not a big deal. We rebook, click OK. Okay, so now we're going to check in John Smith. So I go up top, I click on check in. You'll also notice we have the little flashing VIP here. I'm going to go to View Guest, Extra Info. Here's a Visa, but John gives me a MasterCard. So I'm going to edit the guest. I'm going to change the card type to MasterCard. We'll say the name is the same. So we have a second fake credit card for you guys to use. It's 5290 and 12 ones. And then expiration date just has to be greater than today. You'll also notice over here we have an auto number field. If you want to put the AAA card or CAA card in here, you can. Most hotels will just have the CAA or the AAA as a visual to be sure that they're getting the AAA rate. So it's up to you if you want to capture that information. We're going to save, and this will update the reservation with the MasterCard. Now I'm going to check the guest in. We get our registration card. I'm going to click the little printer in the upper left-hand corner. As the guest is filling out the registration card, I'm going to go over to my credit card machine, swipe the card, put it through for 93906 of an authorization, staple it to the registration card, put it in the bucket, give the guest keys, and off they go. Okay, let's go back to our arrivals, and let's deal with Brian Sampson, the guest that has the dirty room. Now, Brian Sampson is also with All's Well Pumps. Here we can see that the room and tax is being direct billed, and this company gets free parking. So some hotels don't take a credit card for incidentals. And I'm just going to pause for a moment. Shelley, I noticed that you have your hand raised there. I just want to indeed know if you can hear me okay. It will. Shelley, I'm just going to lower your hand there, and we'll get to the questions at the end there. Indeed, it does. So, okay. So for Brian Sampson here, we're going to check him in. Guys, I would just ask you to use the raise hand if there's something wrong with the screen or the audio. Any questions, just type in the question area, and we'll definitely get to the end there. Okay. Okay. So Brian Sampson is checking in. So Mr. Sampson, I have you checking in today, checking out the 14th. Now he is, I guess, that has direct billing, but I am going to ask for a credit card for any incidentals. I'm going to check him in. Now when we get to this screen, room 112 is still there. I'm going to go to View Guest. Extra info, we're going to edit, and we're going to put in the credit card here. When you're entering in the expiration date, you don't need to put the little slash in here. Okay, so you just put the 0115. We'll save that. We'll save it to the profile and reservation. Now, notice when I go to check the guest in, it says room is not ready, current status dirty, continue anyways. So if we happen to know that room 112 is clean, we could definitely just click yes and continue the check-in. In this case, I'm going to go find a clean room. Now again, see how we have the red light and the green light. If a person is colorblind, they may not be able to see this. So up in the upper left-hand corner, though, I do have the option to click on Show Clean Inspected Only. Now it's only going to show me the clean rooms. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and all the standard rooms were still dirty. So maybe housekeeping had a crazy day, and they had no standard rooms available. So I want to do I want to see, is there any other rooms available? So this button here, Show All Available Rooms, and then I can click on the little 3 dots beside the room number, and see here, now I can see my other room categories, my deluxe room. I can see my loft room. Now my deluxe room and my loft room is more expensive, but when I use this feature upon check-in, this is doing a complimentary upgrade to the room. So it's going to save the same rate the guest has. It's just putting them into a nicer room because we have no other standard rooms clean. So I would click OK, click check-in, and continue the process from there. So again, that feature is to do a complimentary upgrade. Have the guest fill out the reg card. I have them in-house. Now, notice that the room and tax is on folio 8. Whenever we see the room and tax on folio 8, it means the guest is not paying for it. It's either going to be direct billed, and if it is direct billed, you're going to see the little city ledger transfer here. And if you guys are going to be participating in the group session, you'll also see if you have it routed to a house account. You'll see it on folio 8, but you won't see this button. We'll talk more about this in front office advanced. I'm going to go back to my arrivals. And let's do Janice Thomas. So Janice Thomas is also a corporate, but this company has all charges to the individual. Okay, so we're going to click on check-in, view guest, extra info. We double check the credit card. It's the same. We're going to check in. We get the note letting us know all charges to the individual. We'll close. Get the reg card, print it out, get the guest sign. And then we're going to go over to the credit card machine and we're going to authorize the card for $439.56 and staple that to the registration card. Okay, Doug Wetmore. So Doug comes to check in, and here we have a note. Guests will pay cash, okayed as per Mr. Tingley. So before I check in Doug, I'm going to go up to the confirmation, and I can see that the total amount is $439.56. So I would ask Doug for the cash before I check him into the room. So here I'm going to go to post payment. I'm going to choose cash. I'm going to put in the $439.56 and click OK. So as a side note, Shelley, this goes towards what you were asking about deposit. So you'll see how this shows up here. So now as I check in Doug, here we can see that the deposit has been paid. Now, I actually don't need to view guest because he's not giving me a credit card, right? So $439.56. We check the guest in. Okay, guest will pay cash. Okay, it is per Mr. Tingley. We'll close. On the registration card as well, the total charges, total credits, balance being zeroed. So if you're a hotel that takes deposits, full deposit, before guests check in, the balance due should be 0 on the registration card. Close the preview. I get the guest in-house. If I go to the folio, so here we're going to see the first night's room and tax post, and then we have the cash. Now, see how their balance is $289.71. They do have a credit balance at this moment because at the end of their stay, after the next 2 nights room and tax post, then their balance is going to be 0. Okay, let's go back to our arrivals and let's deal with our 2 hotwire people. So here I have Lily Bright. Let me just see which one I did right. Yeah, Lily was the one I did right. Okay, so Lily comes to check in. I say, Miss Bright, I have you checking in for 1 day. 2 adults in the room. So when I go to check her in, I'm going to go to View Guest, Extra Info. Now, the credit card we have on file right now is the Hotwire Virtual Card. So why we recommend that you process the payment for the room and tax on those virtual cards in the morning, because when the guest comes in, we're probably going to ask for a credit card to cover any incidentals. And often what happens, the agent's going to go in and overwrite the virtual card. But again, if we process that room and tax posting in the morning, who cares if they override it? Okay, we're going to check the guest in. Room key says post payment for room and tax on folio 8 on virtual credit card. So when I get this guest in house, I'm going to double check to make sure that this was done. On the registration card, notice that we are not displaying any rate there, nor do we see that deposit that we already took on the credit card. And I'll show you why, where this comes from in just a moment. We close the preview. I'm going to go to the folio, and here I can see the room charge on folio 8, $91.58. I can see the payment visa on folio 8. So really, this is taken care of. The balance is 0. Now we only have to worry about guest incidentals throughout the stay. So how did RoomKey know not to display the rate on the registration card? If I go back into system configuration, client types, you would have covered this directly with your trainer in the one-on-one session. I'm going to go down to the OTA net and see here we have this hide rate feature. So that's what hides it. It hides it on the registration card. We still want the guest to sign the reg card, but we do not want them to see that net rate that we have with Hotwire, Expedia, Travelocity, and all them. Okay, we're going to go back to our arrivals. Now, Aaron Hoskin is the other Hotwire, and I did this one wrong. I put the room and tax on, or I put the payment on folio 1. So how do we, how will we see it, or how can we catch it? So I say, Mr. Hoskin, checking in today for 2 nights. I'm going to click check in. There I can see the deposit. I'm going to go to view guest. I'm going to go to extra info. Now, instead of clicking edit and putting in, overwriting the Hotwire card, I'm going to click on view extra cards. Click on new card, and I'm going to store Aaron's credit card in here. 290 123 123 123 123. Okay, I'm going to save that credit card, close out, and we'll exit out. Now we're going to check the guest in. And here, again, I get the note, post payment for room and tax on folio 8 to the virtual credit card. I'm going to close, and we get the registration card. Now, on the reg card, I'm getting a little red flag in my head here. We have no room charge, but why are we able to see that deposit? If that deposit had been charged on folio 8, I should not have seen this at all, right? So this is my first indication something is wrong. But let's say the front desk agent doesn't notice this. So we close out. I get the guest in house. I go look at the folio, and here I see the room charge on folio 8. I see the visa on folio 1. So those notes, when they pop up on the screen, the agent should pay attention to those and double check to see are things happening the way they should. Now to fix this, I would click on the visa payment. I'm going to click on move, and I would send that to folio 8. And click post. And there we have the room charge and the payment visa both on folio 8. Now, if the agent doesn't notice that and it waits till checkout, I'm going to again show you how it's really obvious, okay, upon checkout. Now, the one last thing I'm going to show you is, remember we put in the virtual credit card came through the interface, or we manually enter it, and we put in extra cards, the guest personal credit card. But I'm still seeing the Hotwire card by default. So what you can do is, if you go to change stay, so when we have a guest that's a reservation, it's change res. When it's in-house, it's change stay. I'm going to go over to guest info. There I can see the Hotwire card. So I'm going to go to extra cards, click on the MasterCard, and click select card. And what that does, it now replaces the virtual card with the MasterCard as the default. If I go into extra cards, I still have both in there. I have Aaron's card and I have Hotwire's card. But this just sets Aaron's card as the default card now for any incidentals. Okay, so now that we have people in-house, let's deal with some postings. So I'm going to go up to Mark Thornton. Let's say that Mark comes down to the front desk and he wants to do some photocopies. So I click Post Charge up top, click on the drop-down on my codes, and here's all the codes. Again, from your property prep documents, any transaction codes that you guys filled out, we would have put in the system for you. If there are any codes that are missing, please let us know so we can get them in there for you. You'll want to let your trainer know directly, and also let them know if tax applies or not to these codes. Okay. So here I'm going to do photocopies. In the reference, I can change this to 100 pages, and the amount will be $10. I click OK, Exit, and there we have the photocopies right on the bill. We're going to go to Madeline Thompson. I'm going to go to Post Charges, and we will say that she wants to do some photocopies as well. Now, I'm also going to do a fax for her. So instead of clicking OK, Exit, I'm going to click OK, New. That allows me to do a second transaction. And I do not have a fax charge in here, so let's go ahead and just do an Alex Pub charge for $55. And then we'll click OK, Exit, and now we see the photocopies post and Alex Pub's post. So now let's say that Madeline says, well, I would like to pay cash for that right now. So up top, I'm going to go to Post Payment. So remember I told you that every time you click Post Payment, RoomKey will automatically add up to what is on the bill right now, whereas she only wants to pay for the photocopies and Alex Pub. You'll also notice that the payment code defaulted to the Visa that was on file for the guest. So if they want to change the method of payment, no problem. I click on the drop-down, switch to cash. I'm then going to overwrite this amount to $65, click OK, Exit. Okay, so now we have the 10, the 55, the 65. Let's go a step further. Let's say the guest says, well, can I have a bill for that, but I need it to be separate from my main bill. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the photocopies, click Select, click on Alex Pub, Select, Cash, Select, and we're going to move that over to Folio 2. So when someone asks for a different bill, we don't have different bills. We just have different folios. Okay, so I click Post. Now we can see all the charges on Folio 2 here. I can even click on this drop-down, and I can view just Folio 2 or just Folio 1. When I go up top to the guest folio printer, so the guest folio is basically the guest bill. I then choose Folio 2 and click Print. And here we're just getting a bill separated from the main bill for the photocopies, Alex Pub, Payment Cash. We click the little printer in the upper left-hand corner and give the bill to the guest. Now, on the guest bill as well, so thank you for staying at our awesome hotel. We hope you can stay another time. This is customizable once again. Okay, so if you filled that out on the property prep docs, we already have that in there for you. If you'd like to change it again, please let the trainer know so they can update that for you. And again, we can get your logos on here as well. Okay, let's go to Brian Meister here. I'm going to go to Post Charges. We're going to do Copies, $10, okay. So I give the photocopies to Brian, and all the ink smudges off on his hands, and the photocopies are all ruined, and he says, I'm not paying for these. So now we want to get rid of the photocopy charge. if I right-click anywhere on that line, doesn't matter where, as long as it's on that line, we get the reverse function. I'm going to reverse, and here I get to put in a reason why I'm reversing these photocopies. So smudged copies. I'm going to click OK. And you're going to see that disappear from the bill. Now, it does not disappear from the system. Test says. Okay. You're not going to have it disappear from the system altogether. If I click on the drop-down and go to folio 9, this is where we hide our reversals. So here I have the original photocopy, and then I have the reversal photocopy here. So now we know about our folios. We know that one folio is when the guest is paying for the room and tax. We know that 8 folio is when a room and tax is being billed, either direct billed or routed to a house account or to a third-party credit card like Orbitz or Hotwire. And we know that folio 9 is where all reversals go. So what about folio 2 through 7? Well, really, folio 2 through 7 are for anything else you need to use it for. So, sometimes we have guys traveling on business where they can charge the room and tax, but they can't charge like restaurant charges or movies. So maybe they say, can I put my room charges on one bill, my restaurant charges on another bill, and my movie on the third bill, right? You have up to 7 different bills to use, which you'll probably never use that many, but it's there for you to use. Okay, we're going to go to George McDonald. We're going to post a photocopy of all things for $10. We'll say for the sake of argument that only half the pages are smudged, so we're going to do 50% off. There's actually 2 ways to do adjustments in our system. So if I right-click on the photocopies, whoops, we get the adjustment feature. I go to adjustment. Here I'm going to put the amount of $5 I'm refunding and click OK. So here I have the original. A little red scribbler icon goes next to the photocopies, and the adjustment is a little garbage can. Now, the downside with this method, I was not able to put in a reason why I'm doing that adjustment. The other downside is, let's say I only meant to take off $5. I can't correct off that adjustment. Or sorry, I only meant to take off $4. So I would actually have to go to post charges and post another $1 back on. The benefit with this method, if I go to transactions, I go to folio appearance, I can say do not show adjustments. And when I click refresh here on the bill, notice that that combines it all into one line. Again, that's under transactions, folio appearance. So I'm going to uncheck, click OK, and then we'll see that divide again. So what is the second method? We're going to go to bill cell in here. Actually, we'll go back to Brian Meister. Post charges, photocopies, $10. So instead of right-clicking and doing a $5 adjustment, I'm going to go up top to post charges. I'm going to choose the same code, copies, and here I get to put a reason, so half smudged. Now, this note the guest is going to see, so we don't want to write anything about the guest. And because I'm posting this as a new charge, I'm actually going to post it as a negative $5. I'm going to click OK Exit. So here we can see, same effect, right? So the benefit is I get to put in a reason. The other benefit is if I made a mistake, I can actually reverse off that posting because really it's just another posting. The only downside is we don't get the little icons here that RoomKey knows that this is the same transaction. So if I tried to use a folio appearance to combine the 2 lines, it actually wouldn't work. Okay, now what if a guest came up to the front desk that was in one of your meeting rooms and they didn't have a guest room but wanted to do some photocopies? Or maybe we sell laundry soap at the front desk. So we have a very basic cash register in this system. Under Operations Sundry Sales, this is our cash register here. I'm going to click Sale in the lower right-hand corner. Here I would choose photocopies, $10. Over on the right-hand side, I would choose my method of payment. So I'm going to do cash. The reference, I'm going to put 100 pages. You can even put in cash received, so I can put in 20. Now I know to give them $10 back. Now I'm going to unclick this print receipt because I don't have a printer connected here. I'll click Post. And this is a two-sided transaction. You cannot do a one-sided transaction here because, again, it's like a cash register. So here we have the photocopies and then the payment cash. This is receipt number 1 of the day. Now I'm going to go up to Reports, Receipt. And here we see the very basic receipt here. Okay. I'm going to go to Sale again. I'm going to do photocopies, 5, and I can insert a second line, Alex Pub, 25, then we go to cash. Okay, and again we can do a reference, we don't have to, and you don't have to put in a cash received. Obviously it's just $30. Click Post, take the $30, and this will become receipt number 2 of the day. So tomorrow, it'll go back to receipt number 1, 2, 3 again, so however many you have in that day. Now, let's say the first guy comes back and same problem, the photocopies are all smudged, so we want to give him his money back. So I click on that receipt number 1. I'm going to go to Action, Reverse Sale. Do you confirm the deleting of all transactions for receipt number 1? I'm going to say yes. Now that will disappear from the screen. Again, it does not disappear from the system. If I go into View, Deleted, here I can see the original photocopy, cash payment, the reversal of the photocopy, reversal of the cash. Okay, so again, that was under Operations Sundry Sales. Okay, let's go look at some checkouts. So I'm going to go to my Departure screen to do some checkouts. We will start with Brian Meister here. So Brian is checking out. I say, Mr. Meister, I have your room charge and the photocopy charge. Would you like that left on your visa? And he says yes. So I pull the registration card and take the authorization slip. Now, we only authorized for $111 on his credit card. He went over by $5. So when we settled the authorization, we're going to settle it for another $5. I am going to talk about credit limits when we get to night audit training. So if this is something you guys double check, and we definitely recommend it, you'll see that process on night audit. So up top, I'm going to click on Checkout. Here Room Key shows me the total balance of $116. It's being charged out to the Visa. So this little checkbox here, this is the checkout box because we're on the checkout screen. We're posting the payment here. I'm going to click on Checkout. Successfully checked out. Okay. Now, as soon as you check out a guest, you're going to get a guest folio automatically print out when you do a checkout. And the folio, so I can go to the checked out screen. There I can see Brian who just checked out. I'm going to click on guest folio, print out the bill, and this is what they will get. Now I would also have the credit card slip. So I would go over to the credit card machine, I would pull up the original authorization, I would settle it through for $116. I would have the guest sign the credit card slip. I would staple a copy, or ask the guest if they want that stapled to their guest folio, fold it up, give it to them, and tell them to come back another time. The credit card slip is going to go in my cashier's audit, which I'm going to talk about today. Okay, we're going to go back to Departures. and we're going to do Janice Smith. So Janice Smith comes to check out. Okay, she has the room charge, the photocopies. I'm going to click on checkout. Okay, we have the MasterCard, and Janice says, I'd actually like to pay cash for that instead. So again, I can switch over to cash and take the $110.45 from her. Now, that authorization slip that you have, on your credit card machine, there should be a way, or hopefully there's a way where you can void an authorization or cancel an authorization. Now, when you send that info to the bank may or may not release that. They may hold it for a 72-hour period, or sometimes a week, I even hear. Depends on the bank. But at least you're doing everything you can to release that authorization. So we take the $110.45 in cash. We check the guest out. Copy of the bill is going to print out, and we give the guest a copy of the bill. Okay, we're going to go back to our departures. Here we have Shane Mack. Now Shane Mack has the room charge, and he paid cash upon check-in, so his balance is 0. So when you go to check him out, there's actually going to be nothing on here. Okay, so I would just click checkout, click OK. Okay, Madeline comes to check out at the desk, and she tells me that she had a horrible stay last night. The air conditioner was broken, there was noise in the hallway, whatever. So I want to give her a deal on the room. So again, I'm going to show you how to do an adjustment. So again, if I right-click on the room charge, I'm going to do an adjustment. I'm going to take $20 off and click OK. And you'll notice that room key takes the tax along with that. So when you do an adjustment on a taxable code, it will take the corresponding tax along with it. Okay, we're going to check the guest out. She wants that left on her visa. Now remember, we took $139.86 as an authorization. We're settling it for less, so you just got to be careful when you're settling on the credit card machine. Okay, and sorry, I didn't show this before, but technically you should put the authorization number in here that you're getting from the credit card machine. You don't have to do this, but especially for hotels that are manual, when you guys are reconciling, if something goes wrong, it's good to have those authorization numbers in there. Okay, I'm going to go back to my departures. Let's look at our Orbitz reservations I have here. It's like the 2 hot wire ones I did. So the first one is going to be Sarah. So let's actually post something to Sarah. Let's do Alex Pub. Okay, so yesterday when I checked in Sarah, we had already posted the room and tax on the virtual credit card. So that balance is 0. So now all we have to deal with is this Alex Pub charge. So when I go to check out this guest, notice that folio 8 doesn't even show up here, right? It's already dealt with. It's a 0 balance. So now we just have the $55. Now, for those hotels that do not take a credit card from the guest, just be careful because see here the Orbitz card comes up. Not that it would work. If you try to put it through on this card, it will become declined anyways. So here I would have to see, did we have an extra card? We didn't even take an extra card from them. So maybe we're just going to take cash upon checkout, $55. Okay, I'm going to go back to my departures. I'm going to show you the one I did wrong, which was David Nash. So again, when this guest comes to check out, see here I see the room charge on folio 8 and I see the payment on folio 1. That should raise a red flag for me. But again, let's say I'm the agent, I'm too busy, I don't notice. When I click checkout, okay, this is the final step where you have to go, okay, something is wrong here. I'm seeing a credit on folio 1 and I'm seeing the balance owing on folio 8. So I got to stop and look. You know, when you're checking someone out, you really should be reviewing what's on the folio. and seeing what's going on. So in this case, again, I'm going to take the folio 1 payment. I'm going to move it over to folio 8. The guest doesn't owe for anything, so I thank them and send them on their way. We just check this guest out. Okay, we're going to go back to our departures. We have Bill Sellen here. Now Bill is with Acme Corporation. His room and tax is being direct billed, incidentals to the individual. So here we have the room charge on folio 8. So what you need to know for direct billing with our system is, if a guest is in for 3 nights, you're going to see all 3 nights post to folio 8. Then upon checkout, that's when the transfer is going to happen. Okay. Now, when we do the webinar on City Ledger training, I will talk about doing City Ledger transfers mid-stay. So if you have a long-term guest, we'll cover that in that session. But in this case, a lot of times it's just going to be on checkout. So here I have the room charge. I'm going to click checkout up top. Over on the code now, see how I have city? You may have already talked to your trainer about changing that over to DB for direct bill. A lot of hotels are more used to that terminology. City just stands for City Ledger Transfer. We're transferring it over to be invoiced. It's going to Acme Inc. and I click checkout. Okay. Now George McDonald is due to check out today. But let's say George comes down and he says, you know, I really like the hotel. I'd like to stay another night. So before I extend George's stay, I'm going to go into Operations, Inventory Calendar. I'm going to see, do we have standard rooms available for today? Well, I have 61, so no problem. I also want to see, do I have anyone assigned to that room? So kind of the easiest way, if I go over to the tape chart, the tape chart, remember, is the visual representation of your hotel. There I can see George McDonald in 106. I don't have anyone assigned to that room. From the tape chart, I can even do a change right here. So I'm going to right-click on George McDonald. And here I get Modify Reservation. So just like we did when we were training on the reservations, instead of change res, it's now change stay. We're going to unbook. We're going to increase for a second night. Click refresh. We're going to double check the rate for the second night because, again, maybe the rate changes. And indeed, it does change. So our Thursday night rate is 100. Now it's going up to 110. So it's so important, especially when extending rates, that we go back and reconfirm on that rate. So let's say George says, well, you know, can I get the $100 rate again since I'm deciding to stay another night? So again, as a reminder, our options are we can go to a manual rate, or I can use that enable rate overriding to change that second night to $100. We're going to rebook, click OK, and now we're going to see George McDonald extend. Now, the original authorization that we took on the guest credit card, we only took 1 night's room and tax. Some hotels do feel comfortable with leaving it till the guest checks out, but if you prefer, you would take that authorization slip, and hopefully there's a way for you to reauthorize or increase an authorization that you have on a credit card. Okay. For those of you, again, getting the Shift4 or Sage payment interface, we'll go through this in the training, how you can increase authorizations. Okay. Let's go back to in-house. And on my departure screen, I have no more departures. Let's say I have a guest who comes down and they want to check out. So obviously they're checking out early. So we are going to do Drake McPhail. So Drake McPhail wants to check out, but he was due to stay in till the 13th. So notice here we have the $100 room charge and the $110 room charge. So the total room charges are $210. When I click on checkout, the first thing room key flags, this is an early checkout. So notice that the room and tax went down to $100. What room key is actually going to do, because this guest, we already charged him for April 11th. We already charged him for today. Because remember, our system charges at 1 second after midnight for the whole day. So if he's leaving at 11 in the morning, he's leaving early. Well, I can't charge him for today. So room key is getting rid of that room charge for the second day. Now, let me throw out a warning to you. Let's say Drake comes down at, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night. Room key is not smart enough to realize that it's 9 o'clock at night. It will still flag this as an early checkout, and it will still get rid of this second night's room and tax. So if it's 9 o'clock at night, what the agent should do is go into post charges, choose room charge, do the $110, click OK, exit. Now, for a second, it looks like we just double charged him for April 11th. But remember, as soon as I click on checkout, room key is getting rid of one of the 110 charges there. So see over here, it's $320 for the room charge, but here it's $210 because it's getting rid of one of those. I click checkout, and here we get the please enter the reason for leaving early. So just like the cancel reasons that we have, you guys can put in a customized list of early checkout reasons, right? So change of plans, family emergencies, staying at the Marriott, unhappy with hotel. Hopefully it's none of those, but we'll say it's a change of plans. Click OK, and there we've settled the bill. Okay, the last thing I want to discuss with you, under reports, cashier. At the end of the clerk shift, they should go in. Most hotels will have their agents do a clerk audit. So I go into reports, cashier, clerk, detail. Look at this for today, and this is going to show me all the transactions I did today. What I'm interested in is all my credit card payments right now. So here, under Visa, I can see that I did 5 Visa transactions amounting to $704.24. I'm going to take my 5 credit card slips. I'm going to compare the numbers. So let's say, for example, on this one, I put it through as $278.42 by mistake. I should take the time to fix that. Don't leave it for night audit. And again, your manager will let you know if they prefer night audit doing the double check or the accounting, but we always recommend as a best practice, make each agent responsible for their own credit card slips. So if everything is right, I take the credit cards and put it in order as it appears here. Now my choice is I could print this out and put this with my audit aside, or I'd use this to double check my credit cards, and if they're all good, I can go to reports, cashier, clerk, summary, and just print this one out instead. And this just gives me the overall total of $7704.24. Click on the little printer, stapler, paperclip that all together, put that aside. So let's say that Bob, Sarah, and Tom were working that day. There would be 3 audits set aside, and then night audit would take them and do the reconcile the batching out. And again, we're going to cover that in night audit. The second part of their shift is reports, cashier, shift reconciliation. This is for all the cash they took in today. So here I did $2,728.73 in cash. So let's say my float was $500, so I should have $3328.73 in the float right now. I take out my $2728.73, I fill it out, I sign here, okay, and we drop this in the safe. Or if you guys have your agents leave the money in the safe for NIOT, they should at least count the money and double check it, right? Okay, so that is everything for today's session. I'm going to go over to the question area, and I'm actually going to stop the recording as well, so thanks everyone for attending.